Shalom, everybody. Welcome to this week's Journey Through Torah. We're closing out the book Bamidbar, the book of the wilderness, the book of Numbers this week. And we'll be going into the Devarim, or words, next week, because we're going through the Torah cycle. And so as we close this out, there are some important things for us to remember. Don't forget when we started this, we're talking about life in the journey, life in the wilderness, and we do have responsibilities on how to live in the wilderness. We know it's not just about the destination. There is a process in the journey, and we have to learn what that process is. So this is part of that experience. We're closing this out. This parsha is a double portion. It's Matot Masei, Matot meaning tribes, and Masei is journeys. And we know that they went through 42 encampments in the wilderness, and that was a big experience for a lot of them, right? And they have to learn how to set up camp, tear down camp, move from place to place, and to do so respectfully, carrying the things of Yah and making sure that they have what they need, right? So here we're learning how to carry the experiences of the wilderness into where we are supposed to live, into the destination. It's not just about where we're going, it's about the process to get there as much, right? It's like the kingdom of Yahweh. It is experienced here and now, and where we're living here and now, and the things we have to do here and now. So we're learning how to do that. And this is a big emphasis this week, okay? Because we have the people preparing to go into the land, but before they go into the land, Yahweh tells Moshe he is to go and attack the Midianites. He is to have this war with these kings and destroy them. And Balaam, who instructed him how to bring a curse against Israel, right? Would go into idolatry, and that way they would end up cursing themselves in the process, right? So all of this is things that they're learning and experiencing and what they're going to do. And the importance here we're looking at first and foremost as we open this parsha is he's speaking to the leaders, the heads of the tribes, and he's talking about vows and the importance of a vow. Integrity, keeping your word, right? All of these things are important, especially following through what we're going to catch next. Next, we're going to cover the sons of Gad and Reuven, who come forward and they're like, we want to stay here. We don't want to go into the land. And how does Moshe respond to that? So there's a lot to experience in this. I'm going to try to make this pretty quick because at the time of this recording, we're still in preparations for Tropical Storm Elsa, and which is supposed to turn into Hurricane Elsa, right? So not worried about that, but there are some things that we need to take care of around the house and just trying to get ourselves ready as well. So that's where we stand with that. So I'm going to try to make this pretty quick today and go through what we need to go through nonetheless, okay? So let's start off with Numbers 30, verse 2. It says, when a man makes a vow to Adonai or formally obligates himself by swearing an oath, he is not to break his word, but to do everything that he said he would do. We're not going to major on this point here, but what I do want to stress is that nowhere does Yahweh instruct us we have to make a vow or an oath, but yet he says, if you do, then these are the terms and conditions and things that are to be laid upon it, right? We know that Yeshua brought this to a higher standard when he said, let your yes be yes, your no be no. Everything else is from the evil one, right? Let your integrity stand true. You represent the kingdom of Yahweh. If you say something, do it. If you say you will do something, do it. If you say you won't do something, don't. And don't bring confusion in the midst of that. So there's a lot to learn on the process. But I do believe that this is a matter of integrity and doing what you said you would do. And we find this when later, when they come to Moses, and they're like, we want to stay here. Well, does this mean they're not going to go in as they were supposed to do, to go in and help their brothers with the land? We'll get to that in a second. But as far as keeping what they said they were going to do and following instruction and all these other things, how did they feel they could approach, right? We're talking about the sons of Gad and Reuven. They came to Moshe, and how did they feel they could approach him to ask what they were about to ask? Now, consider the timing of this. They had just gone through war. They had just come back, and we know there was a positive report for them in that, but they had just been through war nonetheless. So they've been through war, and here they are, they're coming back, and they're coming to Moshe, and they're like, hey, we don't want any property in the land. We like it here. Ultimately, that's what it's coming down to, okay? Because they said, look, we look around, we see the land that's here, and it's good for cattle, and well, we have cattle. Kind of implying, right? Well, we have cattle. This would be a good place for it. And there's some midrash out there that says that they didn't have any more cattle than the rest of Israel. It's just they looked around, saw where they were at, and they had just been through battle, and here they are. They're like, well, I kind of like where we're at right here. This is a good spot for cattle. And they wanted to set up camp where they were at. All right. So there's a couple things we need to consider right here. First off, Moshe accused them of doing the same thing that their fathers did. What did their fathers do? Remember when they went into the land and they came back, and the spies, the 12 spies were the 10 versus 2 spies, really. And they brought this negative report, this evil report about the land and what they were going to do and how they couldn't bear to go into it, disheartening the people of Israel, disheartening what they were supposed to go in and do, removing their focus off of Yahweh and putting it on their abilities and what they can and can't do, right? So the question here is, are they going to be willing to fight for the promise? I mean, they're committed to the fight, but then what they did is they asked if they could return to this land afterwards. Now, as a side note, could Yahweh sometimes give you what you're asking for, even though it's not necessarily what he said he wanted for you? Sure, absolutely. But what's the legacy of that? What's the testimony of that? And just to use this as an example, the people were looking with their natural eyes instead of what they were promised. So they settled for something less than the promise. Very reminiscent of Lot and Avram. Remember when there was a feuding between Lot's herdsmen and Avram's herdsmen, and they couldn't stand to be around one another. So what are they going to do? Well, they separated, and Avram told Lot, just look out, and wherever you want to go, I'll go the other direction. And so instead of pursuing Yahweh and praying and saying, which direction should I go, he just made a good business decision. Well, that looks good over there. And what was the result there, right? So what we learn from this is that we walk by faith, not by sight. Things might look good, but is it what we're supposed to do? It might be okay to do it, but is it really the best of what we're supposed to do? Is it profitable? Sometimes Yahweh is just wanting us to step out, and he's going to bless what we do. But then there are times as well where he's saying, I want you to seek me first and see what I have to say about the issues, see what I have to say about the matter. And that at that point is when we can make the distinction of, is he just telling us to do whatever and he's going to bless it? Because we can't just go forward and say he's going to bless whatever, because what if we're not moving according to the word, right? What if we're stepping into things that he's given warnings about, right? So we do have to seek him and have some discernment in the situation. But we have to walk by faith, not by sight in the midst of this. And as another interesting side note, the cities that Gad conquered again are not named in the Torah. When they went through the war, they had to conquer cities and had to go in. Well, the cities that Gad conquered are not named again in the Torah. What about Reuven? Well, Reuven, they conquered, they're not named, but when they are, they're mentioned of places of idol worship or places that were taken back by the enemies, like what was the legacy of their desire kind of thing, right? So was it going to be permissible for these two tribes to stay back on this side of the Yarden, and while the rest of Israel went in and occupied the territory on the other side of the Yarden? Sure, they could do it, but they weren't to be left alone, though. So it's interesting what happens here. A half of Manasseh stayed with Gad and Reuven. Now, they didn't ask for this. None of them asked for this. Neither Gad or Reuven or Manasseh, none of them asked for this. So why would this be imposed on them, so to speak? Why would this be put on them? And why split them? Well, so they could be in the land as promised, but they could also be outside of the land with these brothers right here to make sure, here's an example. What if there's a dispute between tribes? How are they going to handle it? There has to be, for lack of a better way to put it, a tiebreaker. They have to be someone to help in here to bring a sense of balance and justice, and has to be standing together. And further, two or more gathered together, right? So you have three of the tribes together represented right here in a grouping, and that's going to be good for them in the long run. It's not good to be alone or to be separated, right? Okay, back to the story here. So what were their motives? Well, the interesting thing is we are not 100% certain of their motives, other than what they said. But what is their perspective on the situation? What did they say? How did they classify the reason they wanted to stay back? And ultimately, first and foremost, it came down to business. It came down to their livelihood, the cattle. It's all about the cattle, right? But it's not, in the midst of this conversation, Moshe tries to shift their focus, and let's see how that kind of unfolds and comes around. So Numbers 32, 16 and 19, they came near and they said, now look at the order of this and what they say. We will build sheepfolds here for our livestock and cities for our little ones. What was the emphasis first? We will build space for our livestock. Then we're going to take care of our kids and build cities with walls, right? What should be the first and foremost there? To take care of the family, and then take care of the livestock, secure the people first, then secure the livestock, right? Again, it's his perspective. They were trying to make a business decision here. Let's keep reading. Verse 17, but we will take up arms ready to go before the people of Israel until we have brought them into their place, and our little ones shall live in the fortified cities because of the inhabitants of the land. We will not return to our homes until each of the people of Israel has gained his inheritance, for we will not inherit with them on the other side of the Jordan and beyond, because our inheritance has come to us on this side of the Jordan to the east. So again, what we're looking at here is their emphasis as they're talking is about the people of Israel. We're going to do this, and then their business and all these things, right? Well, Moshe tries to change their perspective here. Okay, what happens? In their appeal, they mention multiple times the people of Israel, and Moshe, as he's responding to them, 6 times mentions Yahweh. So again, he's trying to change their perspective off of the people onto Yahweh and what he is saying and what he desires and what he wants, right? Trying to change the focus and the emphasis of all of this. So he says that, I put it down here this way, you're not doing a favor for your brothers, but you're doing as Yahweh has ordered. You're not doing a favor by going in and helping them to obtain the land, by going in and helping them to set everything up. You're not doing them a favor. You're doing as you were ordered to do, right? So don't look at it like you're doing them a favor. You are fulfilling part of your covenant here, all right? Then you can go back and have the area that you're asking for. Okay, so again, he's changing focus from the people to Yahweh. And look at this, Numbers 32:20. So Moshe says, if you will do this, if you will take up the arms and go before Yahweh to the war, and every armed man of you will pass over the Yarden before Yahweh until he has driven out his enemies from before him, and the land is subdued before Yahweh. Then after that you shall return and be free of the obligation of Yahweh to Israel, and this land shall be your possession before Yahweh. But if you will not do so, behold, you have sinned against Yahweh, and your sin will find you out. Now, the thing here is interesting. Before we go to the last verse in this section, he says, so if you do this thing, you will be free of your obligation, right? You will be free, which kind of implies that they took an oath in this situation. Now let's go back to how we started this in the beginning. If you make a vow or an oath, right, you will fulfill everything you said you would do. Have the integrity to do what you said. And here, this fits in this situation. Okay, because here they start off, if you make a vow, keep it. If you give your word, keep it. If you do these things, keep it. And then here these people approach Moshe and say, we don't want to go on the other side. So what do you think Moses is going to think? Here he's going to think, well, are you saying you're not going to go? No, you are going, right? and so this is how this conversation is working out. Verse 24, he tells them to build cities for your little ones and folds for your sheep, and do what you have promised. Notice the order that Moses comes back to them at. Build the cities for your little ones and the folds for your sheep, and keep your word. See that? So again, it's a matter of changing focus and trying to change the perspective of what's happening here. Moses is trying to bring their focus back to Yahweh that we saw, and then telling them, your emphasis is your family, and you build the cities to help protect your family, then get your livestock in order. And keep your word. Do what you said you would do as a reminder, right? Okay, so let's keep going. 32:29. So Moses said to them, if the children of Gad and the children of Reuven will pass with you over the Yarden, every man armed to the battle before Yahweh, and the land shall be subdued before you, then you shall give them the land of Gilead for a possession. So we're looking at these men who are armed, these armed men going before. The word that's used here in the Hebrew is halutzim. What is halutzim? What does it refer to? It refers to be delivered, to equip for the fight, to present, or to strengthen. These men, they were the warriors or pioneers who came to settle the land. They gave up everything else to help their brothers conquer the land. I mean, here they are. They're about to go into the land, and they're like, no, we're going to give up our portion of the land to stay here, and we're going to go in and help them, though, and then we're going to come back and return to this place. Now, what guarantee do they really have that they're going to return back to this place, right? And how long is that going to take? See, they don't really know. So they're going to have a measure of faith to be able to stand and say, we will come back, because they're saying we're going to go, and they're going to face battle. So we're going to go. So they're understanding Yahweh is with us. He's going to do this, but we're going to go, and it's not going to benefit us over there to go into the battle, but it's going to benefit us, and this is what we desire, and we're going to be able to do that by doing this. So they kind of, in essence, laid down their lives, held up that for their brothers. It's like, we're going to help you obtain what Yahweh said and promised for you so that we could have this over here that we're asking for. Okay? How about this? Do we sometimes need to give up on our own wants or desires for the greater need of the community? It's a good question, isn't it? Philippians 2, 3, and 4 says, do nothing out of rivalry or vanity, but in humility regard each other better than yourselves. Look out for each other's interests and not just your own. That's something we need to consider in life, isn't it? Yeah, we need to take care of our family. We need to look out for our business. We need to make sure that we have things that we're supposed to have in life to help live, right? But in the process of this, do not forget to be there for your brothers as well, to be there and to stand for them as well. Sometimes, in certain times, that needs to come first and foremost in a priority, okay? So when things arise, we need to make sure that we are hearing the heart of the Father and pursuing what He's asking of us in this moment, okay? Romans 12:10 says, love each other devotedly and with brotherly love, and set examples for each other in showing respect. Don't be lazy when hard work is needed, but serve Yahweh with spiritual fervor. Good advice, isn't it? And sometimes there is hard work that's going to be needed. Sometimes there are some things that we're going to have to do that's hard or difficult, or we may not be the best at, right? But it's important that we're in the battle. It's important that we're in there. Sometimes when life is a war, Yahweh comes and He tells us He's going to be there with us. We can have hope in the midst of the battle. We can have hope in the middle of the war. He never said it's going to be easy. I don't see anywhere in the scripture where He said it was going to be easy, but He did say that He would be with us in the midst of the battle. He said He would deliver up your enemies before you in the battle, which means you're going to have to be on the battlefield to see that happen. So sometimes we're going to have to go in to do that. And sometimes the battle we have to fight, it's not for us. Sometimes the battle we have to fight is for our brothers. And ultimately what that is, like Moshe bringing the focus back around, it's not for us, it's for Yahweh. Because when we're helping each other, standing with one another, we're actually doing this for the sake of Yahweh, for His great name, for His honor, not for our own. And at its core, not even for our brothers, but it's because of Yahweh. So we're blessing our brothers and helping them out because of covenant with Yahweh. So when we're helping each other, we're doing to honor Yahweh. Kind of seeing the point here. Yes, I'm driving it home. Okay. Look at this. John 15:13. Greater love is no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. And 1 John 3:15 and 16. Whosoever hates his brother is a murderer, and you know that no murderer has eternal life abiding in him. Hereby perceive we the love of God, because He laid down His life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for the brethren. Your life is not your own. Okay, you were bought with a price. We belong to Yahweh. And as such, there are times He's going to ask for us to be on the battle. There are times He's going to ask us to get it and put ourselves out there. And we're going to have to do it and trust Him, because He said He will deliver. He will bring us through all of these things. And our focus in the middle of it needs to be on Yahweh. Because if our focus is on Him in the middle of the battle, we can keep going. But if our focus is on the things that we've left behind, we're going to be skewed. We're not going to be able to look forward and push ahead. We're going to be looking to the back and seeing the things that have been, and that could distract us just enough for an adversary to get in there on the battlefield. Keep your eyes and your heart and your focus to Yahweh, even when times are difficult, when times are tough, and know that you're not alone. You do have a family who you may have never even met, who are there to pray for you and there to help you and be willing to help with what you need as well. Okay. We don't always get what we want here, in life, but Yahweh will always make sure that we have what we need to go through. And what do we need really more than Him? The thing is, in Him, He uses His people. He uses us to help each other out. The hands of Yahweh are your hands. The feet of Yahweh are your feet. So sometimes we do have to be out here in the battlefield to do the work of the kingdom, to show the heart of the Father, and let that be an example for the earth and the world all around us, so that when they look at you, they can see the heart of the one who sent you. And that's what it's about. Building the kingdom, showing the heart of Yahweh, showing the people that there is a covenant of life and there's a better way to live, and willing to help to bring them to see this place and have them be willing to lay their lives down for the same, right? Okay, so that's all I'm going to do here for today. Try to make it quick. Like I said, I got some things going in with the storms moving in here today. So until next time, bless you. And I pray that these teachings encourage you and they challenge you and help you change, right? More like Yahweh, a little more every day. So until next time, be blessed and shalom.